Now if you stick your hand between the valve cover and this AC line right here, go back, swoop it towards the driver's side, you'll feel the upstream O2 sensor right here. Follow that wire with your hand, because you can't see anything, but you can feel it. And then right underneath, right here, you'll see this green wire. This is the downstream O2 sensor. So squeeze on that connector and unplug it. And then if you look down, you'll see it's actually held on right there with a little retainer, but we can get that from underneath. And from underneath, you can see the downstream O2 sensor right here. Follow it along. It's going to have a few brackets that will have to get just, well, slightly massaged and persuaded to open up. Let's just call it that. This one, I didn't have to bend it. I just pulled it out with my fingers. And maybe we'll get lucky and this one will be the same. Looks like no. I'll grab some pliers and just try to open this one up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now our O2 sensor wire is free. Let's just go ahead and pull it down. At this point, we have to remove the O2 sensor from the pipe. As you can see, this one is not looking too great on the threads right here. It's pretty rusty. I'm gonna give it a shot, but most likely it's not gonna work, and I'm gonna have to use some heat, which is okay. But, like I said, I'll give it a shot. Oh, okay, well, made me look like a fool. Well, sometimes you get surprised by things. Either way, remove this, set it aside. The next thing I want to do is disconnect this flange, and as you can see, there's nothing for me to use a socket on. So if yours is in better condition, go ahead and unbolt the bolts. If yours is the same as this, very rusted, you can use an air chisel and air chisel them off, or use a cutoff wheel and cut them off, a reciprocating saw, or a torch, which is what I'm going to use. Whatever you have to do to get these two separated, go ahead and do that. Now there are two 14mm bolts here. Thankfully mine are new, so I don't have to worry about them being rusted like the other 3 bolts. But if yours are not in good condition, you would have to do the same, and hopefully you can save the threads on the manifold side. But like I said, thankfully I'm able to just unscrew them or unthread them. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this to both of them. Like I said, there are 2. Now we're just going to have to grab this pipe and separate it, separate this from this. Now I'm going to use my air hammer because unfortunately I didn't make a very clean cut, so parts of these rutted bolts are still attached. So I'm just going to cause some vibration, hopefully break this free. All right, that's broken free now. Let's take it off of this flange here and kind of maneuver it and twist it so that it comes out through the back. And there it is. At this point, it's important to clean the surface because you want the new exhaust to seal up nicely. So I'm going to use a sanding disc, sand it all down. You can use a wire brush. Whatever you decide to use to clean it, make sure it's flat and clean so that the new gasket can seal. Otherwise you'll have exhaust leaks, and that is not good and can be dangerous. On the manifold side, make sure you remove the old gasket and install a brand new one. This is a donut gasket. That way everything seals up nicely. And make sure the gasket is seated all the way. Otherwise, you'll have exhaust leaks, and again, no good. Before you put the new pipe in, make sure you place the gasket on the pipe right here. Make sure it stays in place, and slide this up towards the manifold line it up with the manifold, and then line up these 3 studs here. Oops, my gasket fell. I'm gonna go ahead and try to squeeze it back in here. Bring this together. Okay, so this is on. It's on the manifold. I'm going to double check that the gasket is still seated, and it is. That's good. I'm going to attach the 3 mounting nuts here, or at least start them on. And I'm going to bottom them out, that way the gasket doesn't fall off when I move the exhaust around to line up the manifold side. 14mm socket. Let's snug these up a little bit. Might as well tighten them all the way. All right, I'm gonna line up this spring bolt. I'm gonna start it onto the threads by hand. Okay, this one's started. I'm gonna start the other side as well. And now with both of them started, I'm gonna snug them down equally, so I'm gonna go back and forth between the 2. That's 1. 2, back to the first one. That should be plenty tight. If there are any exhaust leaks, I will address those once the car is on. Take your oxygen sensor and thread it on. Okay, now that it's bottomed out, let's get our tool and tighten it up. You can also use a 22mm wrench. All right, now we're going to take the oxygen sensor and route the wire through all of these retainers. And the ones that I opened up, I'm going to squeeze back shut. That way it holds the wire nicely. Bring it up over here, snap that into place. There we go. Continue following it up. Put it in this retainer on the manifold here. Now all we have to do is plug it in. Let's connect it. Make sure it clicks. There we go.